everybody, and welcome to Pre-K Discovery. Miss Barb here. Let's get started by looking at our calendar. Well, guess what? It's a new month. This is the month of March, M-A-R-C-H, March. And I'm excited about the month of March because spring is in the air. Yes, it is. So March the 20th is the first day of spring. And St. Patrick's Day is coming up also. So let's see, what day of the week is it? Do you guys remember the song? Days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week. Well, there's Sunday and there's Monday, there's Tuesday and there's Wednesday, there's Thursday and there's Friday, and then there's Saturday, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week, days of the week. Well, today is Tuesday because this is Pre-K Discovery. So let's count how many days that we've already had in the month of March and find out what today is. 1, 2, there's only 2 days. This is the second day of March. Did you guys know that today is a special day, especially in libraries all over the place? Well, today is a special person's birthday, and that person is Dr. Seuss. So today we're going to celebrate Dr. Seuss's birthday at Pre-K Discovery. So Dr. Seuss was born a very long time ago, and sadly he's not with us because if he was still alive today, he'd be 117 years old. That is pretty old. And this is what he looked like. This is Dr. Seuss. There he is. And you may not know who Dr. Seuss is by Miss Barb saying his name, but I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. Well, I know you know his books. Do we know this one? The Cat in the Hat. That's a good one. And what about this one? Horton Hears a Who. Another good Dr. Seuss book. And Miss Barb's favorite, Green Eggs and Ham. And to help me with our story today, I brought Sam I Am. And you guys know him from Green Eggs and Ham. This is Sam I Am. Hello, Sam. So what does Sam like to eat? Green eggs and ham. So our letter for today is the letter L. And the L is for Lorax. And this is the Lorax. And that's the book we're going to read today, the Lorax. So the Lorax is the man who speaks for the trees, or I don't know if he's a man, he's a Lorax. And an L is a line down and a line across. So that is the letter L. And the letter L says la, like in love, like, and Lorax. So let me get my book, the Lorax. Now this is a longer book than what Miss Barb usually reads, but I really like the Lorax and I like the message that it gives us. So we're going to read the Lorax today. And then when we're done, I'm going to show you how to make your own truffula-trees. The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. At the end of town where grickle grass grows and the wind smells sour and slow when it blows, no birds ever sing except all crows in the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood just as long as it could before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax and why was it here and why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, the old Onceler still lives there. Ask him, he knows. You won't see the Onceler, don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum coat under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of mid-muffer moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out the shutters and sometimes he speaks. He tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you perhaps if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail where you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. And then he pulls up the pail and makes a most careful count to see if you've paid him the proper amount. He then hides what you've paid him away in his snoove, a strange hole in his garrulous glove. And he grunts, I will call you by whisper my phone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone. Down sleeps the whisper-ma-phone to your ear, and the old Onceler whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snurgly hose, and he sounds as if he has smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean and the song of the swomy swans rang out in space, one morning I came to this glorious place. At first I saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And there are the truffula trees right there. They're beautiful. It says, and under the trees I saw the brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbaloot suits as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripulous pond came a comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. It says, but those trees, those truffula trees, all of my life I've been searching for trees as these. The touch of their tufts were much softer than silk, as they had the sweetest smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping and a joy in my heart, and I knew what I'd do, and I unloaded my cart. And in no time of it all, I built a small shop, and I chopped down a truffula tree with one great chop. And with great skillful skill, and with the greatest speedy speed, I took the soft tuft, and I knitted a thneed. The instant I finished, I heard a gazump, and I looked and I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree that I chopped down, and it was a sort of man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy and spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. There's the Lorax. Mister, he said with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset, and he shouted and he puffed, what's that thing you made out of my truffula tuft? Look, Lorax, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped down just one tree, and I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful as thin as a thneed. A thneed is a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, it has other uses and far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers, for bicycle seats. The Lorax said, Sir, you're crazy with greed, and there is no one on earth who would buy that fool thneed. But the very next minute I proved he was wrong, for just at that minute a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed I knitted was great, and he happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. You poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy. I repeat, said the Lorax, I speak for the trees. I'm busy, I told him. Shut up if you please. I rushed across the room, and in no time at all, I built a radio phone, and I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts and said, listen here, there's a wonderful chance for a whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast and take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Wee Hawkins, sharp right at South Stitch. And in no time at all, in the factory I built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thieves, just as busy as bees, in the sound of the chopping of the truffula trees. Then, baby, oh baby, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So quickly I invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees at one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before, and that Lorax, he didn't show up anymore. But the next week he knocked on my new office door. he snapped. I'm the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I was also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade of their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating truffle of fruits. And now, thanks to you for hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffle of fruit to go around. And my poor barbaloots are all getting their crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They love living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys, he cried, and he sent them away, and I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go. But business is business, and business must go, regardless the crummies in the tummies, you know. So I meant no harm, I most certainly did not. But I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, and I biggered the loads. Of the thneeds I shipped out, I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on to biggering and selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. And again he came back. I was fixing some pipes, and that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. I am the Lorax, he coughed, and he whiffed, and he sneezed, and he snuffled, and he snargled, and he sniffed. Once, or he cried with a crufluffulous croak. Goodness. Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swammy swams, why they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in his throat. And so, said the Lorax, pardon my cough. They cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. But they may have to fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog you smogged up around here. What more? Snapped the Lorax as dander was up. Let me say a few words about the gluppity glup. Your machinery clugs on day and night without stop, making gluppity glup and also sloppity slop. And what do you do with all this leftover glue? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. It says you're glumping the pond where the humming fish hummed, and no more can they hum for their gills are all gummed. I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins, and they'll get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary. And then I got all mad. I got terribly mad. And I yelled at the Lorax, now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap, yap, and say bad, bad, bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I intend to go on and just do what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering and turning more truffle trees into thneeds, which everyone needs. And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack, and from out in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree, and then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffle tree of them all. No more trees, no more thneeds, no more work to be done. So in no time, my uncles and aunts and everyone all waved goodbye, and they jumped into my cars and drove away under the smoke-smuggered stars. Now all that was left neath the bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax and I. The Lorax said nothing and just gave me a glance, and a very sad, sad backwards glance. And he lifted himself by the seat of his pants, and I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took for leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all that the Lorax left here in his mess was a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that means, well, I just couldn't guess. But that was a long time ago, and each day since that day, I've sat here and worried away. Through the years while my buildings have fallen apart, I've worried about it with all of my heart. But now, said the once-ler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So catch, calls the once-ler, and he lets something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last truffula seed, and truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water, and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest protected from axes that hack, and then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. And that is the end of our story of the Lorax. So what is the message we get from the Lorax? We can't cut down all the trees, can we? Because it affects all the other things around it. The birds will go away, and then there won't be any more plants, and it's just one big thing after another. So only you guys can fix it by being careful, okay? All right, so we're going to do our quick words before we go and make truffula trees. So I want to do at words, A-T, at, because the cat in the hat, the cat ends with at. So our first at word today is sat, S-A-T. Our second one is hat, which we wear on our head, H-A-T. Our next one is bat, B-A-T, bat. This one is cat, C-A-T. And our last at word today is rat, R-A-T. And I kind of think that the once-ler is kind of a rat, huh? All right, so give Miss Barb a second, and we are going to make our own truffula trees. Okay, so Dr. Seuss's birthday, we read the Lorax, and I showed you some other books that Dr. Seuss has written and illustrated. And illustrated means that he did the drawing, so he created the Lorax. Not only did he write the book, but he created the character. So the Lorax saves the truffula trees, or tries to. So what I want to make today is a truffula tree of our own. So Miss Barb made this one ahead of time to show you. And let me stick it in the foam. I got this foam in so I can stick it in there. And I'm going to stick it in there so it stands up. There we go. So there's my truffula tree standing right there. All right, it's really, really easy to do, and all you need is some yarn. So Miss Barb's got some really, really bright colored yarn here. And I like to cut off a piece first, long enough to tie it. So Miss Barb's going to put that piece aside. So then what I do is I take the yarn and I pull out a whole bunch, because I'm going to hold my hand like this, and I'm going to wrap the yarn around my hand. I'm holding it with my thumb so it doesn't pull off, and I'm going to keep wrapping it around and wrapping it and wrapping it. I want to wrap a lot of yarn so I can make a nice fluffy truffula tree, okay? So I'm going to wrap it around and around, and I don't know if there's any amount that you can be like, that's too much or not enough, but I'm going to wrap a whole bunch around because I want it to be fluffy. So if I wrap it around, we'll do a couple more, and then I'll show you. All right, so I'm going to keep wrapping this around, and I'll do a few more. So wrap it around all 4 fingers. Okay, so now I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to cut my string. So watch me cut. Okay. This is awkward because Miss Barb's cutting with her other hand. Hold on. I'm going to hold that for a second. Then I'm going to cut this because... Alright, so I take it off my hand, and carefully I have a loop. And I'm going to take this piece of string that I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to lay this across it. And I'm going to grab these ends, and I'm going to tie it really, really tight. Normally I'd like to do this while it's still on my hand, but I can't cut and do the same thing. So I'm going to tie it really, really tight, and I'm going to give it a knot, like that. Okay, so now I have it tied like this, and it's got loops on the top of it, where I wrapped it around my hand. So I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to push them through the loops, and I'm going to cut the loops. So I'm going to cut all the loops that Miss Barb wrapped around her fingers, because this is what's going to make my truffula tree. So there we go, that's
that side, and then I'm going to do it on the other side. I'm going to cut all those loops. Cut the loops. I think I got it. And I'm going to shake it out. So this is the top of my truffle tree. All right. I like to use these straws because they're such bright colors, and the truffle trees in the books were super bright in color. And I'm going to take it, and I'm going to find where I tied it up, and I'm going to shove this up inside there. And if you have a grown-up that has a hot glue gun, maybe they'll want to do that for you. And I'm going to trim these extra long pieces that are hanging. And just like that, Miss Barb has made a truffle tree. And now I have two. I don't know how many truffle trees it takes to get the Lorax to come back, but Miss Barb has two of them already. She's going to stick that in there. And look at that. I have two truffle trees, just like that. So it was pretty easy. You just have to wrap it around, tie it, and then cut the loops and put it on top of a straw. And if you don't have a straw, maybe a stick or something that you have at your house, you can color it bright colors and make your own truffle trees. So you guys have a really, really good day, and let's say happy birthday to Dr. Seuss because he brought us the Lorax. Goodbye, everybody.